to Bomba!
Welcome back to Bomba Live, the show you've been waiting for from the top of Philadelphia here at the iconic Pyramid Club. I'm here with my intrepid producer, Taylor Cordatis, and of course, my fearless co-host, the Philly Boricua herself, Vanessa Maria Graber. Vanessa, it's nice to be back.
It's great to be back up here at the top of the Pyramid Club.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Vanessa, I know you're ready for the summer. And this is, to get our juices flowing, this is going to be a great conversation to get the warm months kicked off for us.
I've been dying to come back to Bomba Live. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to talk about.
Oh, yes.
And it's good to be here with you. You're looking pretty sharp today.
I'm trying. I'm trying. When I'm with the big timers, we got to do it right. Vanessa, we have a very special guest, a real friend, a sister to the program, labor leader, educator, a boy mom. We're going to find out more about that later. And I'm so proud to say Democratic Senate candidate from the great state of New Jersey, yeah. Dr. Patricia Campos Medina. What's up, Doc?
What's up? Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to see Bomba Live is back.
We are. It's great to have her back. Patricia and I have been going on each other's podcasts and shows over the years, talking politics, our community, the great state of New Jersey, and all things related to the Latino community. So it's so exciting, Patricia, to have you here in this phase of your life as a Democratic Senate candidate. And we're going to find out more about your platform and more about you, including in the WEPA segment. We always represent for the Salvies here on Bomba Live. So proud Centroamericana and her unique background and story. And that's where I want to start, Patricia, because you have just an incredible personal story that I think particularly the residents of New Jersey need to know more about. So, Dr. Patricia Campos Medina, where does this journey begin for you?
Well, the journey as a labor activist for me actually begins in college. But before I got to college, I was born in El Salvador, and I came to the United States at the age of 14 years old, following my parents, who had left way before when I was 7 years old. So I was separated from my parents for 8 years. And that's a story of family separation for many Central Americans and many immigrants, actually. That the parents leave and then they work hard to bring their kids forward. So I am the epitome of the migration story of family separation and because of a broken immigration system. But when I came, I got to Alexandria, Virginia. That's where I landed. Many Salvadorans and Central Americans landed in Alexandria, Virginia. And then I began my life of trying to, figure out how to become, to acclimate, to blend in, to become an American. I learned English pretty fast, and I went to college and at Cornell University. And you and I met, actually, when I returned from college to Washington, D.C., and we were both doing politics. I was with the Labor Council for Latin American Advancement, the AFL-CIO, and you were with Unidos. Back then was La Raza then, right?
Even before that, Patricia, because it was Ushley, we met through Dr. Juan Andrade in those days. And you're not even talking about the personal stuff, college buddies, Atlanta Pi Chi and all that. We knew each other from a few years back, no doubt about
Rafael and I have been doing politics, Latino politics, labor politics for a long time, nationally, not just here in Philly or in New Jersey. So I'm very proud of you and all you've done.
Appreciate that.
And glad to be here and be part of this Bomba Live.
I want to give our readers a little introduction because we need more Latinas in politics and more Latinas.
Only one Latina in the U.S. Senate. That number's got to bump up.
We need to do better.
A lot better.
So, Dr. Patricia Campos Medina is a nationally recognized labor and political leader with a proven record of experience in grassroots and union organizing, electoral campaigns, government affairs, organizational management, higher and labor education. And like you, right, the policy expert, on labor, immigration, voting rights, and voter mobilization. And if you didn't know, and you live in New Jersey, Dr. Campos Medina launched her campaign for U.S. Senate. So that is national representation in the U.S. Senate. And we're excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for that introduction. And all I can say is that I've been doing politics for a long time, but people-driven politics, to figure out how to build power for workers, for immigrant workers, for American workers, and how to make sure that all American workers, all our communities have economic opportunity, and that we actually continue to build the American dream for everybody. That's been my passion from the beginning. I started talking about how I came to the United States as an immigrant from El Salvador, from a little tiny town. And my parents, my father was a janitor when I came, a construction worker, a restaurant worker. My mother was cleaning houses, cleaning hotel rooms. And through their hard work, I was able to go to college, be in a good school, and build my American dream, right? So I always said that I went to college, to the School of Industrial and Labor Relations at Cornell, because I wanted to understand how our labor law system worked, because I saw my parents being exploited. They didn't have health insurance. They didn't have good wages. If they got sick, they still had to go to work. And so I say, we're in the richest country in the world. Why do my parents don't have the rights that they should have in this country? And that's how I went to college, trying to become a labor lawyer. I never became a lawyer, but I became a policy maker, a policy innovator, and I became a union organizer, and I've been fighting for American workers ever since. So I am ready to be an elected official. I am ready to be a United States Senator. I always said that we women and we Latinas have to be 3 times as qualified as any men before we can even consider to positions of power and leadership. But I always tell my Latina girls, and I lead an organization called Latina Civic. We train Latinas to go into leadership and go into public service. And I always tell them, if you don't step out of your comfort zone, if you don't say, I am ready to do it, nobody's going to give it to us. We just have to say, it is time for Latina representation. It is time for women representation. And we have to stand up and say, I'm ready. And I'm ready to be a United States Senator for New Jersey.
I'm so glad to hear that you are inspiring young women to find their voice and to step into leadership positions. We're often not told to do that, and especially in the media, we're not often portrayed as being leaders, right? As being innovators. Where did you find your voice? You know, a lot of immigrants, when they come here, se quedan callados, like they're quiet. They just want to work and, stay out of the light. Where did you find inspiration? Were you inspired by people like Dolores Huertas and others to say, I want to empower people and call out injustice, right? Which is the hard part, right?
Yeah.
Is shining a light on abuses happening to workers. How did you get inspiration to be brave and to do that work?
I was sharing, I was at the City Line Church on Sunday. We were celebrating Pentecost Sunday. And the Reverend, his service that morning was all about how what is your calling, what is your purpose in life, and how do you find that? And there's always a moment in which that comes to you. And when it came to, and that moment to me is, I talked earlier about how I survived the war in El Salvador. My parents left at the beginning of the war, and I was left behind with my grandparents. And through the bombings, through the displacement, through the violence of war, we used to listen to Monsignor Romero and the Saint Romero of the Americas on the radio. This was the 1980s. We still used to get the radios. And every Sunday, he would give the homily, and it didn't matter where he was; they would transmit it. And he would say that whatever is happening to your life now, that we always have to remember that God loves us, and that God loves something, that God wants us to build the kingdom of God here in earth, and that we are called to love our sisters and brothers, and that we are valued with love, and that whatever is happening is not permanent. Whatever is happening will be better. And I remember that inspired me, because I said, I am called to love my brothers. I am called to fight for to end injustice and end violence. And as a 6-year-old, it just stuck with me. I didn't believe that the violence that we were living was going to be forever, but it was my responsibility to keep hope alive and to keep going. So Monsignor Romero inspires me. But then when I came to the United States, of course, Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta. And Dolores Huerta usually says that what you have to do with workers who feel that things are not changing, that they're stuck in despair, what you have to do is to help them see why they are in the situation that they are, and then give them the tools to find power within themselves to get out of that situation. And that's what she calls an organizer. An organizer is like an educator, right? An organizer is like a teacher. She says an organizer doesn't help people. An organizer gives people the tools to understand the situation they're in and get out of it. And that's what I became, an organizer. Because at Dolores Huerta, when she says that, it reminded me of Monsignor Romero when she said, your job is to do what you have to do to build a better world so that the world changes for you and for everybody else around it.
Patricia, that's the inspiration.
That's the inspiration,
right?
Yes.
But then there's a lot of obstacles that you've had to go around, jump over, figure out a way to cut over so you could jump up. So where is the persistence come into play? Because, and I've seen it as a friend, as a colleague, every step of the way. Being from your Unite, when you ran Unite with the, people remember, she was so critical in those historic labor negotiations down in Atlantic City, 15 years ago. And, just throughout the way, just building a presence, a space for Latinas in New Jersey politics. You're getting, you're not getting, let's keep it real, you're not getting the support you deserve amongst all your Latino friends in this run, but you still, not that you're not tough, because you are, but you've been a happy warrior and you've stayed persistent and optimistic about this process. So where does the persistence and how does the hope remain after all these years?
It becomes from, I think it's this belief that if there is an injustice, just might do something about it. It's this belief. Mm-hmm. And it's actually, I said it's like the butterflies on your stomach, because your courage comes from your belly. I always said, you have to love your fellow human beings, but you have to have this anxiety that says I gotta do something about it, and then you have to have a plan. So you have to use your brain also, right, to have a plan to do it. So where does the purpose come from? I feel that in every situation there has to be somebody who breaks the barrier of saying it's not possible. If somebody tells me that's not possible, I say, why not? Why is not possible to do it? And on this race for the United States Senate, remember, Senate is the highest position you can run for. The
ultimate club in American politics, 100 members, yes. 100 members.
And I cannot run for anything else except for senator, because I wasn't born in the United States. I couldn't run for president. So, that somebody else put that limit on me. But when people say it cannot be done, the second question that you have to ask, does it have to be done? And what happened in New Jersey is that it had to be done. New Jersey has lost Latino representation in the last 20 years. Losing Senator Menendez as a national voice for Latino community, not just for New Jersey, but nationally, it's a big loss politically for so many key issues. And listen, we are all disappointed where he finds himself, because he had a great legacy that we were all very proud of. We were helping get there.
I remember when it happened, Vanessa and I, it's hard to even articulate it because it's so disappointing, because he'd been such a great champion. People don't realize he kind of was the de facto Puerto Rican senator, because he carried the water on Puerto Rican issues. Yeah. And on a personal level, we know these people, they're good to us. His children are friendly. It's tough.
And we didn't expect for him to end up here. We were very proud of him.
We weren't looking for that.
Yeah, we weren't looking for that. And I always said, I prayed that all this clear up. I prayed that for his family's sake and for himself, that all this gets cleared up. But in the meantime, he had lost credibility and the ability to lead and be a role model for our children. And New Jersey has lost a voice with the credibility to lead on key issues. And Latinos have lost a leader. So at this moment in time, I'm the mother of two boys. I could not look at my sons in the eye and say that there's no Latino leadership to move us forward. There's not a bench. And that's why I have trained over 1,000 Latinas to run for office in New Jersey as part of Latina Civic and Ella Wins, which is a partnership with the Center for American Women in Politics. And every time we support a Latina to run, the party doesn't support them. It's very rare. We can count on my hands the Latinas that the party has supported. So we have to start challenging the party. And that's what we have been doing a Latina Civic PAC for 10 years, challenging the party to push Latinas, to put Latinas on the ballot. So this time around, when Senator Menendez had to go, and we are losing a big representation nationally and locally, I said, as a leader of the Latina Civic, as a leader of the Latino community, I said there had to be a Latina voice. And it had to be a woman. It had to be a woman because we needed to give leadership to our community and to build the bench for the future. So that's what I'm doing. I had several conversations. People said it cannot be done. You need a lot of money. You don't have the party support. You're not going to go far. But listen, I am still here. It's 2 weeks before election time.
Yeah.
I have been able to go to California, to Virginia, to Connecticut, to Maryland to raise money because people are excited about a Latina voice, about a fresh new voice in politics, who is ready, who is qualified to become a United States Senator. Because I've been in Washington. You seen me there.
Oh, yeah, no question about it. No
I've
question
been in
about
the
it.
White House. I've been in Congress. I've been negotiating deals. I've been counting votes with Nancy Pelosi. I've been in the room with Senator Kennedy.
Slightly more qualified than John Fetterman when he ran for office.
Yes,
Let's put it that way.
that's exactly right. But nobody questioned his qualifications, but they always question.
Well,
a
he's the
woman's
regular guy.
qualifications.
I mean, come on. That's
He was the
qualification.
mayor of Braddock.
No,
so
I
he
know.
was an elected
Fetty,
official.
Yeah.
Vanessa, it's listening to Patricia, like you're very much are engaged in these issues from the like community journalism perspective and in your role at NHJ locally, that representation, particularly with Latinas that are such a driving force in many ways in our society, but don't have the representation in a lot of these spaces. So I know this conversation resonates on that level.
Yeah, I think it's really hard because, as Patricia states, we don't have representation. There's a lot of policies threatening women right now that I'm really concerned about, as well as many young women, right? And, she talked about challenging the party. And as you know, I helped run a campaign last year. I've done voter registration, voter outreach. And it's such a struggle when you knock on doors and you talk to people, especially Latinos, and they seem totally distrustful of the political system, not just the party, but the entire system. They feel as though they don't have a voice, right? They don't see a lot of tangible changes made in their neighborhood, on their block, right?
Yeah.
People mention things like, that abandoned car is still there, or the library is still closed, and they're lacking resources. And I find it very difficult to get out the vote.
Yes.
How are you dealing with this disconnection in your campaign? Because we want to rally our people, right? Like, of course, we want everybody to vote. We want everybody to be civically engaged. But especially with Latinos, and I want to just call out Boricuas because we are citizens. And even if you come from the island to here, we have the ability to vote and participate and get representation where there's not representation on the island. And yet people still, they don't maybe see the value of it. There's also, barriers when it comes to voter access and voter rights. But I think for a lot of people, at least the ones that I spoke to, they are not being organized by people like us, for example.
Exactly, yeah. Well, and that's the challenge. I always say, tell the Democratic Party, and I'm a Democrat, I'm a proud Democrat. I've been a Democrat all my whole life, and I have worked to organize and build the Democratic Party in New Jersey and nationally. Our community needs candidates who looks like them, needs candidates from their communities. Because most of the time, Democrats come at the last 30 days to ask for Latinos to vote for them, and then they never come back. And I've been a labor organizer, a union organizer. I've been organizing cafeteria workers, cleaners, any kind of distribution workers, laundry workers. I have been on the trenches, and what I always tell workers is like, you have to be part of the process in order for you to have a voice, and you also have to have representatives that look like them. And that's what I was able to do in the labor movement. Remember, the labor movement was never very friendly either to leadership of non-white males. So we also had to fight that fight within the labor movement because we needed to organize our people. So I think a little bit, I always said that the labor movement unions are a little bit like the Democratic Party. Yeah. Our values are aligned, but sometimes we have to wrestle with the leadership. So What we need to do is to invest resources all year round in our communities. And it is our responsibility as Latinos to do it. I want the Democrats to come and give me money to do it, but if they won't, it's our responsibility to do it. And that's what I tell people in New Jersey. If the Democratic Party doesn't think it's important to invest in Latino leadership, then you know what? It's our failure if we don't invest in Latino leadership. It's our failure if we don't encourage people to give $5, $10, $20 to political campaigns. And it's our responsibility if we don't organize our business owners to understand how to build power. And I think that that's why we have failed as a community. And I'm talking about what we have not done in New Jersey, because I feel like we do not have a bench of leaders in New Jersey, and it's our own failure that we haven't built it.
And it's a shame because there's so much talent.
Yeah.
But the way, and we don't have time to get into how they changed the line system, which was a win in terms of like voting rights.
Yes.
And you were a part of that, and hopefully we'll benefit from that this cycle. But there's so much talent, but the structure's been so difficult
my whole
for
point is
people,
that the money
diverse candidates to
the
enter
money
the
for
game.
politics has to come from us.
Oh, yeah.
Just like the Irish American, the Italian American,
that's right.
The Anglo-Saxon build their own political structures. They gave money to each other and supported each other. We have to do more.
And
of
we
that.
have incredible buying power in our community, so we need to get to that.
And no one's going to save us,
No one's
right?
gonna
That's
save
right.
us.
So my message, right, is like we have to volunteer, right? Like,
That's right.
you know,
You
I
can-
did volunteer. Like, I volunteered to knock on doors. I volunteered to do that. You know, if you don't have money to donate to the candidates, you know, give
Then
your
you
right.
get your time.
You can be broke
Right.
and cheap, or you can be cheap and lazy, but not both. You got to do one or the
But
other.
you know,
And there's always ways to contribute.
like, no, they're not going to come and swoop in and give
That's
us
right.
that. And people like us with privilege
Yeah.
and with resources,
Yeah.
we have to make that a priority.
And this is why this is a grassroots campaign. I always said I will never get the big money. I will never get the lobbyist money. Because they're gonna go where the party's at. But I've been able to get more donations. Most of my fundraising is coming from low-wage workers who wanna give me $25, who wanna give me $50, because they say I seen you fighting for me, you know, so I could get a contract. And here it is. When I went to California, the local that I first worked as a union organizer, they held a fundraiser for me.
That is
You know,
awesome.
$50, $25, and I got to a good chunk of money. That's the campaign I'm building. I call it at the Theo Bernie style. You know, I was a Bernie delegate for 2016 and 2020. We used to call him Theo Bernie, so I tell people, you can call me Tia Patricia.
That's right.
Because I've been fighting for working class people for a long time, and for unions and for everything. And I want to go back to this issue of Boricua, or Puerto Rican per se, because Puerto Ricans are the largest voting bloc in New Jersey.
Of the Latino.
The Latino community. And
here in Philadelphia, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in
In
Camden
Pennsylvania,
County,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, and we need them to vote, and we need them to participate. And I tell them all the time, Puerto Rico doesn't have a senator. And whoever goes to the Senate from Florida or from New Jersey or New York has to become the voice for Puerto Rico in the
100%.
Senate. Because
That's
there's
right.
real issues for Puerto Rico in the financial plan.
That's a whole other podcast.
colony.
We need to be doing.
Yeah. So
No,
I
there's a
want
lot
to
of
be
issues.
that voice. I married a Puerto Rican man. You know, his mother is from Ponce. He was born here. He's also Cuban.
To me, Pana Bob, yeah.
Yeah,
He's a
Bob
good guy. It's a
Medina.
nice combination. Puerto Rican, Cuban,
yeah.
Fat Joe. It's like,
Your
I
kids
tell-
are truly
celebrities.
Latino, like.
Yeah,
My
no
kids
doubt.
I tell them
Fuerte.
they're Salvi, Cuba, Rican, Jersey boys.
That is so
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah.
That is so beautiful.
And we
But-
own a property in Puerto Rico, so we go there all the
and
time.
where's your property?
In Vega Alta.
Oh,
nice.
nice.
Okay, chévere, chévere.
Northern Coast.
We're going to take a real quick break, and when we come back, we want to hear more about Dr. Patricia Campos Medina's platform and give people some information about, you know, her elections coming up here in the next coming days, so you have all the information about when and where to go vote for our great friend here and special guest here on Bomba Live, which you've been waiting for, Dr. Patricia Campos Medina. We'll be right back.
And people always call me bougie, right? Because we'll go to dance, and if someone taps my shoulder and asks me to dance, and I've watched them on the dance floor and they don't dance as well as I do, sorry, I always say no, right?
Wow.
And people are like, you're serious. And I'm so serious because I take it like I'm passionate. When the music starts, I feel it.
No,
it's a part of
I
my
understand.
body.
I
So
feel
I
that.
don't want to dance with someone, and I know that they can't dance because I want to kill it on the dance floor, and you have to be able to too.
And then it's not going to be a good experience for either one of you anyway, because they're going to feel like they're falling short. It's going to be obvious you're on another level. No, you ain't dancing. You ain't enjoying the 4 minutes. Welcome back to Bomba Live, the show you've been waiting for. Thank you so much, our producer Taylor Cordatis and my very special co-host Vanessa Maria Graver, and our really special guest, our sister here and Senate candidate Dr. Patricia Campos Medina. Doctor, so let people know they live in Jersey. They're ready to vote in this primary. Why do you want to be our senator from the state of New Jersey? Tell us what we're running with.
The election is June 4th. It's the primary election. I'm running as a Democrat, and I'm the only woman on the ballot and the only Latina on the ballot. And I'm making history. I'm the first Latina ever to run for the United States Senate. But I'm not running just because I'm a Latina. I am running because for 30 years I have been working to advance economic opportunity for American workers. I've been working to advance reproductive freedoms and access to reproductive health care justice for women. And at a time where we have great economic anxiety, where our workers are organizing into unions, where women are losing their reproductive rights, when families are going bankrupt because they can't afford health care, we need a champion of workers' rights and an economic champion to go to the United States Senate and represent New Jersey, but also to advance an economic justice and social justice agenda in the United States Senate. So I feel that I am qualified and ready to actually represent New Jersey in the United States Senate. I have worked for 30 years to advance a minimum wage, a living wage. And in New Jersey, we got it to $50 an hour. Federally, we still have it at $7.25.
Unbelievable.
Yeah,
2024.
And I was in the room last time we increased that federal minimum wage from $5 to $7. So I wanna go back to Washington D.C. and get it done to $17 an hour and the Raise the Wage Act. I also want to fight for labor law reform so that American workers have the right to have a union and get a union within 30 days of an election. That's the PRO Act. And I also want to go to Washington D.C. to fight for women reproductive freedom because what's happening in Texas and in Florida, where women are the courts are ruling when they can actually have a medical procedure to end a pregnancy, to me is baffling. The decision to have an abortion sometimes is a medical necessity, and we should not be allowing the politicians to be making those choices. And I always said I am a proud Catholic woman, but I am also pro-choice because I believe that the decision about when a woman becomes a mother or doesn't become a mother is a personal one between our faith and our doctors and our husbands. So it shouldn't be imposed on us. So I want to go to Washington, D.C. to fight for our reproductive freedom, to expand our Supreme Court, to end the filibuster, and to impose ethics rules on our Supreme Court judges so they don't get wine and dine by millionaires while they take women's rights away. So those are my three priorities. There's so much more that I want to get done, but I think that at this moment in time, we need a woman, the first woman from New Jersey to go fight for working people. Yeah.
You're very passionate about education as well, and
Yes.
a lot of our watchers, our viewers and listeners are parents and are concerned about education. And so tell us more about your vision and your passion for quality education.
First of all, I went to college with student loans. I earned a scholarship to go to Cornell University, but that only covers part of it. I did get financial aid, I did get grants, and some student loans. I spent most of my adult life paying for those student loans. But I only came out with $40,000 student debt. Students today are coming out with student debt for $100,000, $150,000. It is unacceptable that as a society we had allowed that to happen. So my number one priority is first, we need to invest, the federal government needs to invest more in our public universities in conjunction with our states so that we can reduce the cost of tuition for working class families. Public universities used to be the way for a lot of working class families for the children to move up to the middle class.
That's right.
We need to do more. We also need to invest in financial aid and more Pell Grants. We eliminated Pell Grants.
Yes.
And we actually need to make sure that we invest in vocational education, and we also provide financial aid for people to become, nurse assistants, to become electricians, to get more into the building trade.
Those are the biggest employer gaps that we're seeing
That
in our
we're
Yeah,
society.
STEM, right? We
Yeah.
need more technology.
Not everybody
engineering.
will go to a 4-year education and college, and we should be preparing what that economy
UPS
needs.
drivers and plumbers and electricians. I mean, those are
In
going to be the high end.
Yeah.
professions.
So we need to invest in community colleges. I mean, I am a big supporter of free community college education because that's where we prepare, our opportunity for jobs. But fundamentally, we also need to forgive student debt because it was a political choice that Congress made in the 90s to privatize the student loan debt relief. It was a political choice. Congress voted for it. And in the 2000s, we forgave the debt of the auto companies, remember?
And the banks.
And the banks
Yeah.
and the mortgage companies
We
when they
bailed
went
everybody else out.
bankrupt.
That's right.
Billions of dollars in debt.
They got bailed out. We got sold out.
We
It's a common trope, right?
Yes, exactly. So if we can forgive their debt, why can we forgive the debt of kids that we made a promise that if they went to college, they were going to have a good job? And that's another thing that hasn't happened. The jobs that we've been creating because we gave so many tax breaks to corporate America has been low-wage jobs. The biggest employer is Amazon. The people are coming out of college, and the jobs they can find is on Amazon for a minimum wage of $15 an hour. So
And
now-
under tough working
on the
conditions
top
at Amazon,
working
right? Like,
yeah. So that's why, in order to fund the student debt relief, the people say we don't have money. We're incentivizing, people to just, don't pay their debt. But I said what we need to do to be able to afford it is we need to go to Washington and rescind the corporate tax break that Donald Trump gave to corporations. And we actually need a wealth tax. We removed the wealth tax in the last 30 years, and what we are creating is the 1% of the 1% owns 40% of the wealth of this country, and 50% owns just 2% of the
and
wealth.
it's grown significantly since
Yes.
the pandemic.
Yeah. So that's why you have, Jeff Bezos and, building rockets to shoot himself to the moon for sports, while his employees
Elon
right
Musk,
here, while his employees still get a minimum wage. They have to carry their own water in their trucks, and they cannot pay for health care. So
They have
that's
to
And companies like Walmart, where we're subsidizing, food stamps for their workers, right?
Yeah.
They're one of the largest employers of the recipients
right.
of food stamps.
And education has always been the way that Americans believe in the American dream, because it provides K to 12 is important because it created a glue on our democracy, but it created opportunity. And then higher access to higher education created a path to the middle class and a path to build the American dream. That path is breaking away from American workers. And if we do not invest more in education, in higher education, and make it free of debt, allow young people to start their jobs without debt. It used to be that your biggest debt was your home, right?
Yeah.
And then at home, you create wealth. With student debt, it's a burden and an inability of people to start their lives, and you are not creating wealth with student debt.
No, I someone with student debt,
Yes.
it disproportionately affects Latinos and Latina women, right, who are more enrolled in colleges and universities than Latino men.
Mm-hmm.
And our parents' stories are similar, right? They're coming here and they don't have money for college. And I also got scholarships, but it's the cost of living too in this day and age for college students is so high that there's even a high rate of homelessness among college students.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Right, so
crazy.
And again, this is disproportionately affecting Black and Latino women, right? And so, it's something that affects all, but it affects our community, right? And so again, it's up to us.
It's up to us.
That's right.
That's why people like you and me need to run, like you need to run, because we know,
I'll be your press secretary.
Oh, we need to inspire people that come from our stories.
Yes.
If we allow only millionaires and billionaires to run our politics, they do not understand what our life experience is. That's what I said. My policy positions are based on my life experience and what I've been fighting for in the labor movement. And remember, President Biden says it very well. We need a strong labor movement in order to have a strong middle class. Because if we don't have a strong labor movement, there's not a counterbalance to the power of corporate America. And that's why we need more people like me to go to the United States Congress to make sure that we pass laws that strengthen the right of American workers to join a union.
Before we hear Dr. Patricia Campos Medina's final words and her final thoughts about this upcoming election, Vanessa, I want to give you a chance to give her a final question.
Well, I think, again, it's building off this idea of worker power. Recently, on May Day, I hosted an event with journalists, because journalists are being heavily affected by layoffs and budget cuts and losses. And, we said, it's time to organize journalists. And normally we're impartial, right? We don't get involved in these things. And we had to strategize around, how do we tell journalists that they're workers too, and that they actually have the power to change their situation, right? To build power and to change their situation. And that obviously takes some time. How have you succeeded in doing this, right? In organizing immigrants, right? And maybe even people with little resources to say, actually, we are many and we have the power, because it applies to all things, right? Worker rights, but also organizing in your community, voting and changing the people who are in power. How do you motivate people or, get them to mobilize, right? Because that's the thing. We want people to take action.
Yeah.
Especially on June 4th, if you're in New Jersey.
June 4th, you got to vote, yeah. Well, I think that one thing that became clear after the pandemic is that people were looking for connection. Remember, how capitalist corporate America succeeded before the pandemic is that they made us believe that your own success is your own responsibility. And that if you got an education and you were a professional, you really didn't need a union because you were on your way and you can negotiate your own wages. But so we were lacking that solidarity among workers. But we had seen that since the pandemic is that we were all in the same boat. We all needed each other, and we all needed to build power together. So that's why you saw Starbucks workers organizing.
Amazon
workers organizer, UPS workers organizer.
We're
Google,
5 blocks away from SEIU's national conference. So, it's...
Google workers, the computer programmers, who usually used to be a good gig, is not a good gig anymore. They don't give you a good salary anymore. They give you assignments just like reporters, right? So now we had accepted this idea of a gig economy because it gave you independence. That's what corporate America wanted you to believe. But then they control your hours, your wages, your working conditions, they control everything.
Your benefits or lack of.
And this is why we have to, that's the conversations we need to have as professionals, that if you do not control your wages, your hours, your working conditions, you are not independent. Somebody else is running the show. And I think that we've seen that. And we also seen it with doctors. Doctors in the hospital system, there are unions for doctors.
Yeah, nurses too.
The CIR. And there used to be this lack of solidarity between doctors and nurses because doctors were like professionals.
Right.
Well, there was a gender dynamic.
But now doctors need unions as well. My whole point is that you have to understand the power lies in solidarity. Because in a gig economy, and we organize gig workers in New York City, the app food delivery workers, the power comes in the solidarity, that you have to agree that in order to raise the standards on your industry, you all have to demand a basic wage and a basic salary. And you all have to pool your resources and put money into a healthcare system that works for you. So those are the conversations that create awareness of who controls your industry and then creates that education. So that's what I'm passionate about, because somebody's setting the rules of the game, and corporate America is doing it right now, and government needs to do more. Government needs to work for working people and help workers like you actually have some rules of the game and enforce them,
May 20th. I'm
hold
sorry.
on. The power is in solidarity. Like, that is the message here.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
May 28th, if you're a New Jersey Democrat, it's your last day to apply for a mail ballot. Early vote. You have no excuse. If you can't vote, you're busy on election day between May 29th and June 2nd in your county. There's early vote opportunities. And on election day, June 4th. Dr. Patricia Campos Medina, it's always inspiring to have you here. Your final word to Democrats in New Jersey and our familia watching this all over the world here on Bomba Live.
Bomba Live, thank you for this conversation. It's actually a very substantial. But my final word to Democrats in New Jersey is that our vote is our voice and is our power. And if you want to have real representation, someone who understands the concerns of our community, someone who is a woman and has lived the difficulties of raising a family, going through education, and had health conditions and understand how difficult it is to manage your health care and make sure that you're healthy and that your family is healthy, someone who's fighting for working families, and someone who understands the needs of Latinos in New Jersey, I am your candidate, Patricia Campos Medina, the first Latina running for the United States Senate. Look for my name in your ballot. If you got a ballot on the mail, you can sign it, put it back in the mail, and vote early so that you actually make sure that there is a voice that represents you. If you want to have a voice that fights for Puerto Rico, both in the island and for Puerto Ricans right here in New Jersey, for our education, for affordable housing, and your voice, vote on June 4th.
Patricia, if you listen to the beginning of the show, I want to go back to the beginning to wrap this up. Patricia, at 6 years old, in war-torn El Salvador, believed and had hope that she could change things could get better, and she could reunite with her parents and have a life in this country. And if she has the courage to make this historic run for Senate, you need to have the courage of your convictions and go out to vote for this woman on June 4th and elect this and be part of this historic election. Doctora, muchas gracias. Thank you so much.
Muchísimas gracias por la oportunidad. Un placer.
Bomba Live, the show you've been waiting for.